purpose of this video is to show you how you can make a quiz using Google Forms and then use an add-on called Flubaroo to have that quiz self-grade. Flubaroo is really great because not only will it grade your quiz, but it will also send out the results to your students if you choose to do so. So the first thing we have to do is create our quiz. I'm actually using a teacher's guide from a National Geographic article for kids about animals that are out for blood. But it's a 5-question multiple choice quiz. And we're going to turn it into a digital quiz. So there is a little front-end work to get this done, but once you create a quiz, it's saved in your Google Drive. You can use it again and again, so it's definitely worth the process. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to My Drive and select New, and I have to go down to More until I see Google Forms. Now when I go to Google Forms, it will create a new form automatically. I want to give it a name so I can recognize it later. We'll just call this Animals Out for Blood. And this is my title of my quiz. I can give them some instructions down below. I could say, please answer the following questions. So when I think about a quiz, usually the first thing I have students put on a quiz is their name. Now there's 2 ways we can collect their names. The first way is if I go to Settings up here, which is my gear, and click on that, I can have, notice it asks who can answer this quiz. And it could be anyone in Dexter schools or anyone, in the world. I'm going to keep it to my school district here. And I can do automatically collect respondents' username. So what that does is it collects their school Google account email. So I can tell who answered what that way. I'm going to save that. Another way that I could get their name is I could, instead of making this multiple choice, I could just make this short answer, and I could say, please type your, I'm going to say last name, because I want to alphabetize this when I'm done. So I can do that, and I'm going to make it required, meaning they have to put their name on their paper, basically. It won't let them turn in the quiz unless that's in. Now I'm ready to add my questions. To add a new question, I come over here to the plus sign, add question. Notice there's other things you can add. You could add a new title, you could add pictures, you could even embed a YouTube video. So you could show a video of something and then have them answer a question or in response. And you can break quizzes up into sections. That's a little more advanced. I'm not going to go into that now. But I'm just going to add a new question. You'll see it shows up below the name question. I want to be multiple choice. And I'm going to go back to my digital quiz. And I'm just going to copy. Now this is a PDF, so it may not copy nicely, but we will try. And I'll paste it. There we go. Excellent. And now I need to add my options. So my first option is deer ticks and then freshwater leeches. So I'll come here and I'll type in deer ticks. I need to add a new option, so I can click add option. If I click add other, it'll give like an other option, which wouldn't make sense for this question. So let's do add option. And what was it? Freshwater leeches and bed bugs and male mosquitoes. Okay. Bed bugs and male mosquitoes. Okay. So now I have my options, and I also want to make this required. It's kind of a pain to have to hit this toggle each time, but it makes sure that students have to answer the question. I'm going to go through and I'm going to copy over the next 5 questions here, and then I will pick it back up where I left off. So I just copied over the 4 multiple choice questions from this quiz, and I really just copy and pasted the questions and the answers. It took me about 5 minutes to put those in. So the more you do this, the quicker it goes. But one thing I wanted to point out, let me make this required, is you can always go back and edit these questions. So if I click on it, notice I can change all these. I can change if it's required or not. I can delete it, or I can even copy it. So if I make a question and I'm going to ask a similar one and want to use the same format, I could copy it and then edit it. I can also rearrange them. So if I wanted a different order, I could drag this and move it up here or down, but I'm going to leave it in the order I put it in. There is one more question on this quiz. And it says, your idea is rate the blood-sucking animals in the article on a danger scale from most dangerous to least dangerous and tell why. You know what? There's a couple different ways I could ask this question. I could make a new question. Go on here. I'm going to copy that question. And I'm going to paste it right in here. And to me, that sounds like kind of a free response question, right? So I might do a paragraph answer, and they can just write them. If I wanted to get really fancy, this was kind of my first thought. It says rate them on a danger scale from most dangerous to least dangerous. Whoops. And you know what? Maybe I will take this part out. Instead, I would use a linear scale. And so I could say, I could say that I could put in an animal and make 1 least dangerous and 5 most dangerous, or a multiple choice grid. There's a couple ways I could ask this, right? But I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to go to a paragraph. Now, as you would, suspect, this is not something that's going to self-grade for me. A computer can't read a student's response and grade a response. So this question I'm going to have to grade as a teacher, which I can still do with the self-grading quiz. So I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. I will make this required, and my quiz is ready to go. So how do I get it out to my students? Well, first of all, I might want to tweak it a little bit first. Some of the things I can do is I can change the colors or put a picture on top. I can preview my quiz by clicking on the eyeball. And this is what my quiz will look like. Also notice as I look at these questions, if I see a red asterisk, that tells me that it's required. So I always make sure that I have them all asterisks there. And students can also choose to get a copy of what they actually responded with. So that's my preview. Let me go back to editing it by clicking on the pencil. And here are my settings. Settings are important because we can tweak this quiz a little more. We've already said that it's going to collect their email address. I can change what it's going to say at the end. So I could say, thank you for taking the quiz. You will receive your, grade shortly. And notice there's some other options. This would say they've already taken the quiz once. Can they take it again and turn it in again? For a quiz, I probably don't want that to happen, so I'm going to uncheck that. Edit their response means that they could take the quiz and submit it or turn it in and then say, oh wait, like number 3, I changed my mind, I need to go back and change it. And it gives them an option to edit it. For a quiz, it kind of depends on your style. I would say, when you click submit, that's it. So make sure you check your answers first. Or you might be okay with them going back and changing answers, but I'm going to turn that off. See a summary of responses. For a quiz, you want to turn that off because when they're done, if this is on, it will let them go and see what everyone else answered or how the class breakdown is. So if you can imagine, what if we had both of these checked? They could go and see how everyone else responded and then go back and change their response. So I usually turn all these off for a quiz. And then these are really nice. The progress bar just shows them how far along they are with the quiz. I'm going to put that on. And shuffle question order, even though the results will appear in the same order that you type them in, it will shuffle the questions for anyone taking the quiz. So this is great to prevent cheating because one student might get the first question first and the next student might get, a totally different question. So it is a nice way to kind of prevent cheating. Okay, I'm going to click Save. And so this is ready to go. I'm going to share it with my students. Now I'll talk about how to share this via Google Classroom in another video, but I could also just send out a web link. If I click Send, you could send it via email. You could email it out. Here's the link, and I like to shorten it. So I could send this link, and it would take students right to the quiz, or I could embed it like in a web page. So, and then there's Google Plus and Facebook and Twitter. So there's different ways you can get it out. I'll talk about that in another video. But now it's time for students to take the quiz, and then I'll have to grade it. So one thing I have to do as a teacher is I have to take the quiz myself. And the reason I'm going to take the quiz myself is because I'm creating the answer key to the quiz. So to take the quiz, I'm going to go to the eyeball preview. And notice it says that it is collecting my email address And you know what? It's going to put that last name question down here because I did shuffle order, but that's okay. So I'll put Nickerson. And let's go ahead and answer the questions. So I am going to go ahead and pick the correct responses. So let's see. This one, it's going to be that they remove ticks. Rate the blood-sucking animals. This one, it's a free response question, so I'm just going to put in like NA. Why are they powerful tools? Because they prevent blood from clotting. Which one does not practice that? That would be male mosquitoes. And what is not true of them? It would be this one. Okay, and I'm going to click Submit. So I notice this is what the students will see too. It'll say, thanks for taking the quiz, you're all done. Okay, now I've put in my answers. Let's go back to the form, and notice now it says that I have one response. Now as a teacher, I can see this. The students cannot. So first of all, as a teacher, this is really powerful because I can see what students responded to. Now these are all the correct answers, and there's only one response for each, but I'm using this as a pre-test or as a formative check. Wow, I can see where my students are, and I can see where there's misunderstandings or anything like that. All right, so now the other thing we need to do though is we need to take these responses and we need to put them into a spreadsheet. So I wish it was a little bit bigger here. Oh, and by the way, there you can look at individual responses as well. So this shows that it's for mine, but I can go through and look at other responses as they come in. But you see this little icon right here, create spreadsheet. I'm going to click on that. And it's going to create a new spreadsheet. I'm just going to go with the same title and click create. And here we go. I have a spreadsheet. This is where I actually do the grading. So notice it'll automatically give it a timestamp. I asked it to collect the username, and then I also had kids type in their name, so I have that as well. And then here are the answers, right? So this is what we'll use for grading. Now, in order to grade this, we need to use an add-on, and add-ons are up here. And I already have it downloaded, but if you go to Get Add-ons, and it's usually one of the first ones that pops up because it's very popular. It's called Flubaroo. If you don't see it, you can type in Flubaroo and it will come up. But Flubaroo is how we self-grade. So you have to install it. You'll get some little tours and pop-ups, but once it's installed, it's ready to go. So let me show you how it works. Go to Add-ons, Flubaroo, enable Flubaroo in this sheet. And it has been enabled. Okay, so now let me go back to Flubaroo. Oops. Grade assignment. Oh, you know what? I need another submission to do this. I need it from another student. So I'm going to go back and make a fake student submission just by going back and viewing it. And I will just like randomly pick some things. Test. Okay. Okay, great. So I submitted it. Now, if I refresh, I should have two responses. There we go. So here's like my fake student, and this is me, right? So let's go back to add-ons, Flubaroo, whoops, grade assignment. Okay, first thing it needs is it wants to know what each column or each question means. So notice where it says username, which is the email address that identifies the student. It also recognized that the question, please type your last name, identifies the student. So that was nice. And notice it doesn't have any point value because we don't grade for names. Now, here are my questions that I asked. These are my multiple choice ones, right? And then this was the free response. So right now, they're normal grading, which means it's you got it or you didn't. And they're worth 1 point each, but I could change the point values. Now the last question, that free response, let me click on that. I could either skip grading, which means that it's not going to grade it, it's just going to leave it alone, or I could grade by hand. So if it's a free response, grade by hand is something I'm going to need to pick. So I'm going to click continue. And now it's asking which submission or which response is your answer key. So remember when I did this one, this was my answer key with the correct answers. and it's grading my assignment. What it does is it makes a new tab at the bottom. So here are my submissions. The original, data is still there, but my grades are going to be here. And it takes, depending on the submissions or what's going on with Drive, it could take a little while. So I'll give it a few more seconds and then I'll restart when it's done. All right, so it went ahead and it graded for me, and it created this new tab that says grades. And you'll see, first of all, here's my class summary up here, and then here will be all of my student responses. So if I look, it did include my test key. It used that to grade, but here's the one I just did really quickly, and this poor student got it 20% because they clicked at random. Notice that it has, it'll tell me how many points they got for each answer. It automatically highlighted the ones that got 0%. What it will do is it will look at the whole class's results. So let's say you had 30 results here, and it has a threshold, and I forget which percentage it is, but if it's low enough, what it will do is it will highlight the column saying, whoa, hey, look, a lot of your students missed this question. It's really helpful if you're doing a pre-test or a formative check. It gives you a heads up of where you might really need to focus your instruction. Or if it's a post-test, it's really going to let you know, wow, was that a bad question? Did I actually teach that well? Is this something I need to focus on? So I like that it really points out which questions kind of hung up kids. Now notice I haven't graded this one because I would have to see their response, right? I have to grade by hand. So what I could do is I could go back to the student submission. Oh, this student just wrote test, but I could read their answer. And if, by the way, if it's a free response, what I like to do is make this column a little bit bigger and then put on text wrapping, which is right here. So that way if they have a big long thing, it's easier to read. I can see chunks of responses. So let's say I saw this and said, oh yeah, well, okay, good enough response, even though it's not. I can go back to grades and I can give them 1 point. So I can enter their points by hand. I know it's a little clunky going back and forth, but it is what it is. So imagine you'd have 30 tests graded right here, and it does it automatically. I could sort this column, the names. Actually, where's my name response? Right here. And I could sort it A to Z, so it's alphabetical. I know that's helpful when I move data to my gradebook. And I can see if I'm entering point totals into my gradebook, here they are. Percentage totals are here. I could even copy paste them. But now I want to let my students know what they got. So I need to send it out to them. Again, I'll go back up to add-ons. I'll go to Flubaroo and I will do share grades. What it will do is it will look at this email address it collected. And so we'll want to use that username column, and it will share via email. You could share via Google Drive, or you could do both. I can show the questions and the scores. I could also include the answer key, so if they're like, why did I get that wrong, it will let them know. And I'll say, here are your grades from the animal quiz. And do continue. And what it's going to do is it's going to send out emails with the grades to all the students on this list. So if I go to my email, and look at that, here is your grade for animals out for blood. And it shows that as a student, I got 2 out of 5. I got a 40%. And I can see which ones I got incorrect, and I can see the correct answers. I love how it color codes it. It's really, really nice. So it's nice for immediate feedback. It really lets students get their results a lot quicker, I think. Okay, so I have my results. I have a graded quiz, and you will have to manually enter your points over to whatever grading tool you're using, be it PowerSchool or paper and pencil, but you'll have a list and you can sort alphabetically, which is really nice. So that's how you use Flubaroo in conjunction with Google Sheets, which is what we're in here, in conjunction with Google Forms, which are here. One other thing that I wanted to point out is with my quiz, when I am ready to close it, when I'm ready for kids to stop answering, I can go to responses. And notice it says accepting responses. Let's say I have all 30 responses and I don't want anyone to see my quiz again. I can close it up. I won't take any more responses, and students cannot submit their answers anymore. And they'll see this form is no longer accepting responses. So that's effectively how I close my quiz when it's done. So I hope this helps. I know there's several steps, but if you have any questions, don't hesitate to let me know. And keep on having fun with our Google tools.